So, had a video come out on Tuesday. Me and my little buddy Titus did some carrot fermenting. And
I don't know, I've never done any carrot fermenting.
man, I got a book called Fermented Vegetables, and you can ferment just about anything. And so I used our complete fermentation kit, which has everything but the jar and the lid there. And I don't know if you could get without, you might could go without using the lid there. These things kind of, once it starts fermenting, they kind of suction down to it. But I just put the band on it.
And we got some new plastic lids.
We do that you can use for that.
Sure can.
Good reusable. Anyway, so if you haven't seen that video, go check that out on the YouTube channel there. Me and little man having a little fun with digging and fermenting some carrots. I cut these in strips, but I've seen it done in the book. They talk about doing it several different ways. You could kind of shred them or what they call julienne them.
Julienne them.
I get the other one I could just cut in kind of chunks, but we'll be interested to see the differences here. This one we did fresh dill and garlic. I had to go to the store and get my dill and garlic. But the other one I did garlic and some red peppers to kick it up a notch. But you can see some bubbles in there already. Some fermentation taking place.
So you got one of the weights in there to hold them down. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And the brine's really easy. It's just a half cup of water per gallon, half cup of salt per gallon of water. And I mean, it took longer to dig and wash the carrots than it did to make this.
A good way to extend that season out so that you can enjoy your carrots later on.
And it's good for you. So we're going to see how that is there. I mentioned on last week's show we were working on getting the account feature back and possibly a wish list feature. A lot of people have wanted that. So that is live on the site now. Let me tell you how it works, okay? So we don't put front facing center on the header my account, because when we do that we get a lot of people that think they have to have an account to place an order. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a little button that says my account. If you want to register for an account so you can use that wish list feature, or so you can see, you know, compile your previous orders, you can do that. So go down there where it says my account, you put in your email, it will send you a password, just kind of a random password. You can then change it to something you can remember if you want to do that. The wish list feature will not work unless you're logged into an account. So you have to set up the account. Then
you say wish list. This is where I can go on there and do some shopping and put some things in my list, but I don't necessarily want to buy them today. But I want to put them in there till I get my order completely together.
Right. If you're just browsing, you can add things to this wish list. And then when you log into your account, you can see your previous orders. You can see the items you're waiting to get back in stock. You can also see your wish list. There's also a button when you place the order there to create the account. You'll get the email to create the account that way. So just scroll down the bottom of the page. You'll find it there. And you can use that wish list feature and the wait list feature. Everybody that have been looking forward to that, give it a try. Tell us how you like it. And hopefully everybody enjoys being able to use that feature. What you got?
Well, I got something right here that Doug and Marilyn Smith out of Cleveland, Tennessee. Now, you know what else is in Cleveland, Tennessee?
I've been to Cleveland, Georgia. I ain't know that I've ever been to
Cleveland, Tennessee is the home of Beatty Fertilizer Company. Our good friends Beatty Fertilizer.
Okay, that's right.
Is up there. John Beatty and Clayton, which passed away not too many weeks ago, good friends of ours. So if you happen to know John, tell them hello from the Hoss Boys. Doug and Marilyn Smith sent us some Pool Hall slaw. And that's right, you heard me. Pool Hall slaw, which I've never heard before. But you know, we always grow too much cabbage because cabbage is easy to grow, it's fun to grow, but what do you do with all that cabbage when it comes in?
Make some Pool Hall slaw.
Make you some Pool Hall slaw. So that's what we're going to try today. I have not tried it since it came in, but thank you so much, Doug and Marilyn, for this. We're going to try it out here, and I'm looking forward to it. It looks great. The recipe, which I know everybody will want to know, is going to be listed below in the description. How about that?
Well, let's say we'll put it on when the blog post gets up. We'll put it there. It'll be a little bit easier to read.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to have the recipe
on the podcast/blog post.
We'll have it available for you because it is a little lengthy recipe. It's not really complex to make, but there is some steps you have to go through there. But I'm excited about this. So what we have here.
You gonna eat 3 of them?
I might. I ain't eaten in a while. But so what we got here is some fresh sausage, and Travis, you brought some kind of flicked buns here. What in the world's going on here?
These are better hot dog buns because they sot down. They don't fall over.
Well, look what happened there.
Well, you ain't supposed to tear them apart. You're supposed to just kind of.
I ain't never seen such.
Gently open them up. Cut me a piece of sausage there, or tear it here. You don't need to cut it.
All I got is a razor knife of all things. You got a knife?
I just tore it, but yeah, I got a knife. If you can't.
I got a razor knife. I've been cutting boxes, but I can cut it. I can gnaw it off with that. So we got some fresh sausage. And these afflicted buns Trav brought here, I ain't never seen such. Put it in there like that? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. When you got youngins, that works a lot better. It don't spill over, get ketchup everywhere. Modern day hot dog buns.
Modern day hot dog buns. I ain't never.
Pool hall slaw.
All right, pool hall slaw. Don't
like?
that look good?
Looks kind of mustardy. Oh yeah, kind of smells like sauerkraut.
I feel like you got to do a lot of this.
You feel like that?
I feel like that's the way you got to do this, right? You got to slather it on there. Now he also said this is good on a cracker,
Oh yeah.
which I imagine it would be. I like.
You gonna eat it all?
Oh, you want some of it? I'll let you doctor your own up. But anyway, I'm a big fan of foods that are fermented or canned because I think it's a great way to be able to grow your own food and prepare it, preserve it, and have it when you want to eat it.
Or should we partake?
Go ahead. What you think? Nice color. You know, most of the time our slaw is a white color, but that's unusual because it's kind of yellowish. And let's see what else it's got in it. It's got onions in it. It's got pepper in it. It's got a little hot pepper in it.
It's got mustard in it?
White vinegar. Yeah, it's got some mustard in it. That mustard is what makes it yellow.
You reckon?
Yeah, I reckon so.
That's pretty good stuff right there.
So if you got that cabbage, ooh, got a little kick to it.
That's the sausage. The sausage is hot sausage.
No, I just ate some slaw. It's got a little. I mean, it's not hot, but I like it. So if you got some leftover cabbage, some pool hall slaw.
Yeah. And when we do the blog/podcast post of that on the site, which you can see that at the very bottom of our webpage, the row by row blog or whatever.
We should have got us some paper towels. We may have to wipe it on our shirt tails.
You didn't bring nothing. I did bring me some water. Okay, what else we got going on? We've been shipping taters. People have been getting their taters. I wanted to clarify a few things. One thing. With our samplers, we got two different samplers on the website. We got our homestead sampler and our gourmet sampler. And each sampler has 4 different varieties of taters. And you get 10 pounds total there. Now, for those of you, this is mainly happens with people who have never grown taters before, I have found. But every tater is not created equally. Taters is all different sizes and different varieties, all different sizes. And if we were to pack these things by trying to measure out 2.5 pounds of this variety, 2.5 of this, 2.5 of this, and 2.5 of this, and get it just right, and then bag it all up, we would never get these taters shipped out. People would be fussing.
Well, first of all, there ain't no such thing as absolutely 2.5 of every tater every time.
Exactly.
So you can't, it's impossible to do that. And some of y'all out there, and y'all know who I'm talking about, are those kind of people where everything's got to be just perfect. You're the ones that count out them 200 seeds in the seed pack. I know who you are. Well, the world just doesn't work that way. Now, we're not trying to cheat you. That's just the way the tater packing business is done.
So the way these things are packed is our potato packers, they've got a tub of each of the 4 varieties that grow in the sampler. They got a bag, they got a scale. They're going to grab a couple taters of each variety, put them in the bag, and keep adding relatively equal amounts of each variety until they hit 10 pounds on that scale. So yes, you may get one more tater of one variety than you do the other variety. It's a sampler. Just like when you go to a restaurant, order appetizer, you may get one more chicken wing than you do mozzarella stick.
Yeah, you don't cause a big stink about it. You just go on because that's the way the world is. The world is not perfect that we live in.
Yeah, and we have to do things to make things fast and efficient.
I also had a lady the other day send us an email. She said we sent her a tater with no eyes.
Well, I think that's one of our questions here.
Well, I don't know if it's or is not, but I had to deal with this on a customer service level.
Why don't you wait? We get to that.
Well, I want to get on it real bad when it gets to my turn.
Okay.
Because that's going to be a good one for me.
Okay. We got a new product we just added to the site. You want to talk about these a minute?
Yes, I will. So I've been working on this for quite a while, probably a good 6, 8 months.
Who designed them?
Well, you may have had some work in the design, but I did pretty much everything else. But then it's a team effort. How about that? We got a absolutely wonderful pruner that we have got private labeled. Now these are made in Switzerland. In case you didn't know it, all your high-end pruners and shears are made in Switzerland. For some reason, those guys over there know what they do, and they set up to make these things. And they tell me they pretty much all made in the same little small town, which I thought was interesting. So I talked a little Swedish and convinced the boy. I said, "You need to make us some of them right there." And we changed a couple of little things on there to our specifications, and we got our own Hoss pruners. Now this particular pruner here is the one that is it's primarily. It's the, let me see the words here I'm looking for. I made me a note there. It is the leading brand used in Europe.
Yeah, so this is a Swiss design that goes back to 1917. And you get the card here. I've been using these, before we got them private labeled, I've been using a pair of these for about the last 2 years. And I can tell you they are fine. I got that big muscadine vine, and it takes me you bite it off a little bit at a time. It takes me a couple days to trim it, and really good pruners. Let me talk about a little bit of the features here. So first of all, be careful when you open these. They are razor sharp coming out of the box. This blade here, which has our nice little logo on it, is coated with a material called PFTE, and that's going to protect your blade. Kind of helps it self-clean itself if you're cutting something with a lot of sap. It also has something in here called a sap groove. So if you're cutting something sticky, like, let's say for instance, I got some Confederate jasmine on my fence around my house, and that stuff is real milky when you cut it. If you got anything like that, it's got a sap groove in it there, so it's not going to hang up and stick. Also got a 3 locking position there. And a lot of people don't know what that's for. They're just going to go with all the way open or all the way closed there. But if you're trimming something, the stems are kind of small, what you can do is you can set it in that position right there, and then it's a lot less effort. You don't have to, go over that full tension every time. Got your spring there, kind of shock absorbing. It's all aluminum, and like I said, I've been using these for a couple years. Fine, fair pruners there. You won't ever need another pair.
Now these are bypass pruners. What that means is when you stick something in there, this blade is going to bypass the other part here, and it's going to cut it. And that is the design that is mostly desired for pruning stuff.
Left or right-handed?
Left or right. This brand here is the most trusted brand in Europe, and them folks have ever been pruning a little longer than we have. They Europeans, they really like to prune and cut stuff, and this is the leading brand over there. This is the one used by the professionals. So we got a great price point on there. It's a great product, and we're proud of it. And better, look at there, got a Hoss right there. Ain't that spunky?
Them's pretty. They feel good in your hands. They're not very heavy. The ones we used to carry, I'd say a good bit heavier than this. These are nice, light, comfortable, and last you a long time. Keep them in a good spot. Don't just leave them laying around, because these things can walk off on you. My little mule garden buggy, the hood flaps up, and I got storage in there, and I keep mine right in there. Nobody knows where they are.
I get upset somebody get my pruners.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that with some family members get them and want to use them and leave them out there in the yard, and it get rained on. Now, I'll come unglued about that. You take your tools and put them up when you get through with them, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
You bad about stealing ink pens and tape measures.
Well, I am.
So we got some stuff coming up in the greenhouse. We'll show everybody. Somebody had me watering these maybe they ought to be in.
Somebody's been busy getting orders out.
So this is one of my 2 trays of peppers here, and we didn't get 100% germination. We did all right.
It's pretty close to it, ain't it, out there?
So this is what I call my sweet pepper tray, and I got one that's got more hotter peppers in it. Some of them are a little faster than the others. We actually took these. I started them in the greenhouse, did a video when we started them in there, and then it kind of struck cool. And we didn't have a heater in there. I brought these inside, used them on some of our new germination mats that we're going to be carrying soon. And
they did make them pop. Now, they pop pretty quick after we put them on the mat.
That worked like a charm. I know we've had a lot of people in the Row by Row group talking about, man, these peppers are testing my patience. You really need to have a heat mat. You really need to crank it up.
Of all things that need heat that can make them pop and get up, it's peppers. I think that last time I looked, the degree difference on the ideal germination temperature between peppers and tomatoes was somewhere between 10 and 15 degrees. These peppers need to be 10 to 15 degrees warmer to pop, to germinate, than what tomatoes does. Mm-hmm. So if you thought about making that investment in that germination mat, it'd be well worth it if you plan on germinating some peppers there.
Yeah, and I recommend on the germination mat, cranking that puppy up as high as it'll go.
Yep.
So
put that up, and I got one little thing I want to show folks. I did a little bit of experimenting the other day.
Oh yeah?
On something. And this right here is some microgreen kale I'm growing. And I want y'all to look there and pay attention to that. You can tell that they got a little curly right there, a little leggy. What happened when these come up, I let them, once I see them pop and started coming up and started leafing out, I didn't put them in the grow lights for a couple of days.
Now what had happened?
And they got leggy in a hurry. Then I put them underneath the grow lights, and you can see they starting to straighten out a little bit. My point is, it's very important just as soon as you see that green to get them underneath the grow light, because they'll get leggy on you in no time. And once they do, and it's tough to straighten them back out. Sometimes it's nearly impossible there. So, to germinate them, you don't need a grow light, but just as soon as they germinate and pop through, get them on some good artificial light or get them out in the sunlight, and you won't have that legginess right there.
That's what we did with those peppers. So we didn't have those on a grow light. We just put them inside the office here, a good heat mat, and as soon as they popped, we took them back out to the greenhouse after they germinated, because they don't need quite as hot then.
Yeah.
We still got them on the mat out there.
Boy, ain't that a nice tray I got there?
That is a nice tray.
You know what? That's a new microgreen tray that's just been designed that nobody's got yet. Did you know that?
Are we going to have them?
Well, I'm just saying we might. Maybe something in the works here. Maybe coming not too long.
That's pretty swift. That don't take up a whole lot of room. You can grow some good groceries on that.
And look how shallow they are, so you can get to cut. You don't take a lot of potting soil that you don't waste, and you get to cut your greens right there at the level there. Ideal.
Stack them up.
Yeah. Enough said about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you're done with those, when you're done cutting them, it just forms this whole root mat there. You roll it up, throw it in your compost pile.
That's right.
Got goodness there. Let's talk about a few new varieties before we get into today's main topic, which we're going to be talking about seedless watermelons. We're going to be doing a little educating on some seedless watermelons. A few new varieties we got here. This one I'm excited about. This is a new sunflower called Firecracker. And this one is, of course, it's got some beautiful looking blooms there, red and yellow like a firecracker. But this one does, it's I wouldn't call it a dwarf, but it's kind of semi-dwarf. So they don't get that tall, 5 or 6 foot tall. I think it's actually maybe between 4 and 6 foot tall. But they're pollenless, so they work good as cut flowers. But unlike the pro cuts, which are single stem, these are branching. So you can get, I've read, up to 8 to 10 blooms at a time. Long stems, so they're good for cut flowers. Pollenless, you bring them inside, you don't get pollen all over everywhere. But they're shorter, more manageable. So if you got containers, you got raised beds, or you want a nice little border plant around your garden, this firecracker sunflower is going to be the way to go.
How long have they been on the site?
I think late last week. It might have been Friday night or so.
Well, they have been flying off the shelf since then.
These?
Yes, they have.
Huh. I think we got these in 1,000 seed quantities as well.
And one thing we've noticed since we got into seed business is you all love your sunflowers.
Everybody loves sunflowers. So I think besides sweet corn, we sell more sunflower seed than anything else. It's crazy. A lot of people were asking for smaller seed quantities on tomatoes. We don't have them for every hybrid yet, but we're working on it. So we've got some 10 seed options for some of these tomatoes out there. Your Roadster, which is a really good disease-resistant slicer. Summer Pick, we have a 10-seed option. The Sweethearts, which is right up there with that Mountain Vineyard as far as a grape tomato. Tachi, and this Rosy Finch little cherry tomato. So we do have some 10-seed options on the site. Just a little hint. I told the folks in the back, although that says 10, I told them to put 15 in there.
No.
Y'all don't hold me to that if you get one of these, but I did say.
Just figured as a bonus if you got extra seeds.
That's right. That's right. We also got, and we're going to be talking about these a little bit more in a minute, added 2 more seedless varieties to the site. Seedless watermelons. I grabbed the wrong one. So we got this first one here I talk about is called Harvest Moon. This is the seedless version of your moon and stars.
Really?
So if you like moon and stars, want to grow a seedless version, this is your way. Now your seedless watermelons are typically a little smaller than your standard watermelon. So this is not going to be as big as your moon and stars. You're probably looking about 15 pounds on here. Now in each of these packets here, you get your seedless watermelon seeds, you push the pollinizer. Now we're using Charleston Gray as a pollinizer because it doesn't look anything like any of our seedless varieties. So you'll know when it comes up which it is. But if you wanted to get creative with this, what you could do is use a regular moon and stars as your pollinizer. With this one, with this Harvest Moon, you would be able to tell the difference because the regular moon and stars, they get pretty big. And then the smaller ones would be your seedless ones. So you can play around with that, and we're going to get into how to grow these seedless watermelons. The other one here is called Triple Play, and this is what you call your picnic or your lunchbox kind of
Small
ice
one.
box.
Similar to the size of baby doll.
Yeah, so yeah, that was the word I was looking for, ice box. That's what they call them. Your ice box watermelon, you know, like a small basketball. Throw it in the cooler, get it cold, take it on your picnic, you and Yogi Bear.
Your lovely bride, you can sit there and have a moment with her eating some of that ice box watermelon.
That's right. So that's the Triple Play there. Now let's get into the seedless watermelons, okay? Because this is
I'm gonna eat me a little bit more of this while you do it. I got a feeling you're gonna get drawn out on this watermelon thing.
Well, it takes a little bit of background to be able to explain how it works, okay?
Get my box cutter out and cut my sausage up.
Now, this is probably one of the things that we will have talked about on the show that the fewest people have ever experimented with. Now, we might have got a lot of people that watch the show nowadays, and we've probably got some seedless watermelon experts out there watching, and they could even provide more tips than we could. We're going to try it for the first time this year, but I got some educated people in my circle as far as growing these things that have kind of given me the tips that I'm going to share today. So let's start off with the main concept here. How do you get a seed from a seedless watermelon? If it's a seedless watermelon, how do we get seeds to plant more seedless watermelons?
That's a great question I've often pondered.
Really?
Yeah, how do they breed and get the seeds to seed that?
Okay.
And I'm assuming you're going to answer this.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that. So let's start off with a little bit of background here. And we're going to talk about something called ploidy, okay?
Ploidy?
Ploidy. And that refers to the number of sets of chromosomes an individual or something has, okay? So let's start off here. Let me draw an egg. Let me draw a little swimmer here. So this is our egg. And these are what we call gametes in animals. We got the sperm fertilizes the egg. In plants, the pollen's going to fertilize the eggs, okay? These, we use this term N, okay, to refer to the number of sets of chromosomes something has. So if something is 1 N or just N, it has 1 set of chromosomes. If something is 2 N, it has 2 sets of chromosomes.
I'm with you.
Follow me?
Preach on, brother.
Okay. So, we've got our gametes, our egg and our sperm in the case of the animals like us. They are what they call haploid, which means they just have 1 set of chromosomes. We use the N to designate that. When those fuse together during the fertilization process to make a human or an animal, that individual has 2 sets of chromosomes. Me and you both, I have a set of chromosomes from you, and a set of chromosomes from mom. You have a set from your dad, a set from your mom. That makes you 2N, or what we call diploid. Follow me so far? Okay, so almost everything we plant is diploid, right? The seed itself is diploid, has 2 sets of chromosomes, one from the father, one from the mother. When you start thinking about what could be triploid, where you have 3 sets of chromosomes, in nature, this a lot of times or if not all the time, causes sterility or some kind of issues. Down syndrome, also known as trisomy 21, means you have 3 copies of the 21st chromosome. So triploid individuals tend to be sterile.
I wonder if it's the same thing with a horse and a donkey creating a mule.
Yep,
Same exact thing.
So anytime you get...
I can relate to that one.
Right. Anytime you get 3 sets of chromosomes, things are not going to be the norm necessarily. Now, in some situations, the triploidy is forced intentionally to create sterile individuals. But when you get 3N or 3 copies of chromosomes, that's where you can get some sterility.
Okay.
Okay?
So a mule is sterile.
Right. Now we're going to talk about quadruploid, or 4N. Okay? So a quadruploid situation where you had 4 copies of chromosomes, or 4N. Okay? Now how do you get quadruploid? Triploid usually occurs by some kind of genetic mutation. How do we double chromosomes individual? Most individuals are 2N. How do we make them 4N? Well, how they do it in watermelons is this chemical right here, okay, called colchicine. So I've read some things where it says they treat the seeds with this. I've read some things that say they treat the plants with this. But what this particular chemical does is it doubles the chromosome amount. Now I know there's a lot of people out there that's like, well, man, I don't want any seeds that have been treated with a chemical. This stuff right here is not bad. This is actually a chemical that the Egyptians used to use, and is still used today, to treat gout, and it can be taken orally. So nothing too bad about colchicine.
You know what gout is?
Gout, when you eat too much fried chicken and stuff.
That's when you turn the ceiling fan on and it makes your foot hurt. That's how sensitive it is. That's some bad stuff.
When I worked at a golf course in college, we had an old fellow named Henry there, was the irrigation expert, and he ate a lot of fried chicken and drank a lot of brown whiskey, and the gout just was rough on him. He couldn't hardly move around. So anyway, if you got gout or you want some quadruploid seed, colchicine is the way to go. So what they do is they take a diploid, just your standard watermelon, either the seed or the plant, they treat it with colchicine, then you get that 4N or quadruploid individual. Okay? So they're growing out this quadruploid seed, and they breed that with a pollinizer, a diploid,
which is a simply open pollinated variety.
Yeah. So you're breeding a quadruploid with a diploid, and the result is you get the triploid. Okay? So that's what we're doing. These seeds inside here, the seedless seeds, are quadruploid seeds. When we grow them with a diploid, the Charleston gray, you're getting 1 set of chromosomes from that diploid, 2 sets of chromosomes from that quadruploid, makes a triploid, a sterile or seedless watermelon.
So
that makes sense?
Yeah, so go back and explain to me where I get the seed from that at.
The seed, this seed is quadruploid. That's what they use the colchicine to double that chromosome number.
That's the reason you can't save the seed from that to create the same thing over again.
That's right. And that's why seedless watermelons are so expensive, because that whole process of forcing that quadruploidy is pretty intensive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, good to know. If I'm ever at the mall and somebody stops me and asks me about seedless watermelons, well, I can just say, have a seed here at the bench, and they'll explain it to you.
Yeah, let me tell you about haploid and diploid.
Then you happen to have a marker and some big cue cards, and we'll draw it out for you.
That's right. That's right. Well, I hope that made sense for everybody. If it made sense to you, it probably made sense to everybody else.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
I know one thing, that's some good stuff right there. It's a little spicy. Make your nose run and water up a little bit, but it's good stuff.
Okay, so now let's talk about the varieties we have, and we have one more that I'm hoping to add. I'm not guaranteed to get it, but it's called Treasure Chest. That is the triploid or seedless version of that baby doll. I'm hoping we get that. I haven't received it yet, but we got several of them here. The really fancy, improved hybrid ones we got is this Tailgate and Summer Breeze. Those are the ones that have just out of this world sweetness. Both of those are really good ones. Which one of those you plan on growing?
I don't know. I ain't really studied that yet.
You ain't studied it?
No.
So we got Tailgate, Summer Breeze. Can't go wrong with either one of those. And then those two I just mentioned, the Harvest Moon and the Triple Play. Each of these packets you get 15 seedless seeds and you get 10 pollinizer seeds.
So will these cross-pollinate?
Will they cross-pollinate?
So if I plant these in one spot and then over here I plant me an open pollinator spot 10 feet away, I don't have to worry about them cross-pollinating?
No.
Okay. Because we're going to get that question.
Right. Because these are sterile. They ain't producing those seeds anyway.
Yeah, but the fruit will be true to variety.
Yeah.
That's my point. Yeah.
Right. In any situation, the fruit is always true to variety. It's if you're saving the seeds where you run into some issue. Now, corn is different because in corn, we're actually eating the seeds. So if you grow Silver Queen next to some yellow corn, they're going to cross-pollinate and you're going to see a bicolor ear because we're actually eating the corn seeds. But most of we don't eat the seeds, we're eating the fruit. All right. So we talked about the varieties. Let's talk about some growing tips because this is going to be important to know. You know, these seeds, like I said, they aren't cheap, but this will be something fun to do. I'm looking forward to doing it. And if you can get the hang of it, you got something there. Seedless watermelon, good stuff. So let's talk about some growing tips. Number one, always transplant these. These seeds are too valuable just to be throwing them in the ground and hoping on some rain or trying to do them that way. You need to transplant these. As I'll talk about in a minute, these, once they get it up and going and transplanted and get to growing, these seedless seeds are going to be more vigorous than an OP watermelon. But from germination to transplant size, they're going to require a little more babying. They're going to be a little more delicate. Once you get them going, extremely vigorous, they require a little more babying at first. So you always want to transplant these.
Yeah, another thing too is you always want to get a good seed starting mix. The one we use right now is a black gold, and I like it a lot because it's consistent, not a lot of trash in there. It's a good product. It's got perlite in it. Now there are other brands out there that's okay. I mean, there's a particular type of what's that one we used to sell?
Pro Mix.
Pro Mix had a senior brown mustard moment there. Pro Mix that I like. Now, I'm not saying that the one we got is the only one you use, but I can tell you it is a high quality pot mix, and that's what you want to do. You don't want to skimp out and go down there to the big box store and get you some brown cow and expect to do well with these. Go ahead and invest in good pot soil because you want to be successful with these seeds.
And a little hint, we've got our own branded seed starting mix coming down the pipeline in a month or so. So yeah, use a good seed starting mix. Don't use a pot mix. Got to have good aeration with these seeds. These seeds are not going to want to be too wet. They're going to like, moist soil to germinate, but these are not going to like too much water, and that's where a good seed start mix and that perlite is going to come into play. Now that technique we use where we put the perlite on top instead of more soil is a really good technique to use with this, and the commercial guys do it for good reason. You need that aeration with these seedless watermelon seeds. You need that good airflow. You don't want things too damp or too moist.
Also, the resistance pushing through that is a lot less.
That's right. So if you're ever going to try that top dressing with perlite like we do, this would be a good time to try. And the reason we started doing it, we saw the commercial guys do it. We figured there had to be a good reason behind it.
Yeah, also, use your heat mat on these right here. 85 degrees is what you need to pop them with. Put them on a heat mat and that'll pay off, I guarantee you. Make them all come up consistently, which is a good thing.
That's another reason you don't want to direct seed this in the ground. Like I said, you need 85 degrees to get these things germinated, so you need to have them on a heat mat. Next tip, you want to transplant these at 3 to 4 weeks old when they got 2 to 3 true leaves.
Yeah, my rule on watermelons, I've always stuck with 4 weeks. 4 weeks growing out of a watermelon plant is pretty much, you can write that down anywhere you want to. That's pretty much what you're going to do if you got everything right.
What can happen with these, if you let them get too root bound in there, my people tell me that they can experience some significant transplant shocks. So you don't want to let them get root wrapped 3 to 4 weeks. As soon as you can pull them out of that tray, you want to get these guys in the ground.
And don't jump the gun too much. We all have a tendency to do it. We want to get the first watermelons out there in the neighborhood, and you want to go there and plant them too early. Wait just a little bit till your soil temperature rises up and get these things out there. Normally for us, and this is zone 8, normally for us about the middle of March is you're safe. I'm talking about for transplanting from plug into garden conditions.
Now for these, they recommend you want soil temps 65 or greater to transplant these. You want 85 for germination, but to put them in the ground, you want 65 or
And
greater.
every year varies a little bit, so just keep an eye on your soil temperature and know when it's time to put them in there.
I mentioned that the seedlings need more babying, but these are more vigorous once they get going. Another thing, you need to be using drip irrigation and fertilizer injecting with these things. You can use your 20-20-20, you can rotate that with some calcium nitrate and add some micro boost in there using either one, 20-20-20.
Or what I like to do, I like to do a pre-plant a couple weeks ahead of that with that organic fertilizer we got. Put it in there and work it into the soil, let those microbes get going, put your transplant there, and then start shooting the juice to them.
That's right. As far as how to plant these things, so we include the pollinizers in here, the Charleston Gray pollinizers, and you have to plant the pollinizers because these seedless seeds are quadruploid, pollinizers are diploid. You're wanting a triploid watermelon there. Okay, so you have to plant these on a kind of specific ratio, and it's a 3-to-1 ratio. So along the row, assuming you were just planting one row or maybe 2 rows of these, you're going to put 1 pollinizer for every 3 seedless transplants.
Now these pollinizers, you'll know the difference in them because we got them in a little itty bitty Ziploc bag inside the seed pack.
Yeah, and they say Charleston Gray on there. So you're going to grow out your pollinizer transplants the same way you do your seedless transplants. And when you transplant them in the ground, you're going to put 1 pollinizer plant per 3 along the row. Now, if you were growing a lot of these, what the commercial guys will do is they'll do it by row. So they'll plant 3 rows of seedless and then a row of pollinizers.
Yeah, I've seen it done both ways. They'll also put them in the same row, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it can be done either way. And the guys I've talked to said as long as you maintain that 3-to-1 ratio somehow or another, it really doesn't matter.
It's the mustard. I figured it out. It's the mustard that makes the difference right here. Who would have thought about that? Mustard and slaw.
Kind of looks like tater salad.
Yeah, that's what makes it so damn good. Sorry about that. I just got carried away with the slaw.
It's 3-to-1 ratio, whether it's plants along the row or rows. One thing to mention here, and I read this and I thought this was interesting. We said that the seedless ones are going to show more vigor once they're in the ground, but the pollinizer is probably going to germinate and jump up first in the trays. So what you can do, assuming you got these in the same tray, you definitely want to have them labeled. What you can do is your Charleston Grays might be ready to go in the ground faster than the others. And the last thing you want to have happen is these seedless ones making flowers and there's no pollen out there from the get. So I saw one thing that recommended go ahead and get your pollinizers in the ground first, maybe a week or 2 ahead of these guys. That way you ensure you got the pollen there to make everything happen.
That makes sense because once they start blooming, they're going to bloom from there on for a long period of time. So you're not going to miss anything on the back end, but we could miss.
And if you're growing them on buried drip tape like we do, that makes it real easy because you can see where your emitters. You just go every 4th emitter, put you a pollinizer, and then a week or 2 later, go back and plug in your seedless ones. What you like to plant yours on 2 foot?
2
1
foot
foot.
apart. I do 2 foot apart, 4 to 5 row spacing. Yeah.
So I was wrong. Not every fourth emitter. It would be every 8.
I can't eat that right there and do math.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The last thing is you got to have pollinators. Got to have pollinators. Whether you got a beehive or you can attract some native bees in there with some flowers. This you ain't gonna get a seedless watermelon if you ain't got any pollinators.
Got to have them bees.
So
or something.
Just to recap here, transplant, good seed start mix, need your mat, your seed starting mat above 85. Don't put them in the ground until the ground's 65 degrees. A 3-to-1 ratio of seedless to pollinizer seeds, and use a drip irrigation, use a fertilizer injection, and you should be good to go.
You're going to look like a superstar, because what you're going to have come 4th of July, some of them nice, pretty seedless watermelons for them babies to bust into, and they're going to see they ain't got no seeds in there, and they're going to be so proud of you. It's going to be good.
And you know, seedless watermelons, I was reading, it wasn't until about the early to mid 90s.
That's right.
They hadn't been around for that long.
I can remember distinctly when it happened, the transition started being made. And I got friends, of course, y'all know if you watch the show, I've always grown some of these heirloom varieties because that's what I like. But I got a lot of friends that just didn't think there was anything but a seedless watermelon. I mean, you show them a seeded watermelon, seedy folks, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. They just get berserk and stuff and start shaking all over because they're scared that they're going to cause some problems if they had to spit a few seeds out. So they just used to this seeded watermelon thing. So you got to try to, if you got some seedy folk friends, this is going to be a good way to kind of pacify them and keep them going instead of throwing something off on them. We're throwing the watermelon out there with some seeds in it.
Yeah. Another thing, I read this study that was done, because you always got some old timers out there that are going to say, "Oh, them seedless watermelons ain't no good. Them old-timey seeded varieties is the best watermelons to eat." Just like you got people that'll say, "Oh, Silver Queen, that's the sweetest, best corn there is."
I'll be one of them.
Well, we know that there are much sweeter varieties than Silver Queen.
There's a difference in sweeter and bestest.
I didn't never say bestest. I said sweet.
Bestest is a word, by the way.
Yeah. So I said there are much sweeter varieties than Silver Queen. And just like your old heirloom watermelons are not the sweetest. So this one study I read, they did some blind taste tests of these people who were seedless watermelon deniers.
Well, that would be a good thing for us to do this spring.
And they said the seedless one won every time.
Really?
Yeah. It was just in their heads. They had made up their mind that the new stuff wasn't no good.
Well, we should do that when watermelons start coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can grow them off here. I'm counting on you now. I'm going to try some, but I'm not the watermelon expert.
It ain't nothing but a thing for me, son.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing for me to grow a watermelon.
So if you have any more questions about seedless watermelons or anything like that, or anything to add that you've experienced growing them that we didn't cover, definitely let us know in the comments below.
Let's get in some questions.
Let's do it.
All right, first one is from Siege919. It says, question on the business side. I've heard great things about your 162 cell tray that releases plants easily and lasts a lifetime. Urban Gardener here, is this any chance that you might offer the 48 or the 60 of the same design and sturdiness? Would save repotting for me. I like to have things in what they can stay in, which is mostly being park starch. But I would definitely love to try your tray, but 162 is just too many and too small for me. Also, what is the general, I know it varies per plant, amount of time seedlings can stay in one you currently sell? Okay. A lot of questions there.
A lot of questions. So let's start off with the first one. So these 162 trays here are made by a company out of California. We do not make these. These are made for the commercial greenhouse industry. We have several commercial greenhouses in our area. Way back in the day, somebody gave us a few of these trays. We used them as our volume and sales got up. We were able to start carrying these on our site. So we do not make them. The molds to make these particular trays are extremely, extremely expensive.
We are a distributor for the company.
That's right. So they're out of California.
Actually, they're owned out of Israel, but they're manufactured in California. The company's owned out of Israel. Thought I'd throw that little bit in.
Throw that in there. So a lot of people ask, are you going to create domes for these? Are you going to make smaller ones that have the same build? No, because we don't make them. We get them from those people. And like I said, the company that makes these, they make products for the commercial greenhouse industry. They're not really interested in modifying things for the home industry. We're just taking advantage of what they make that's a great product and make it available to the home gardener, because you really can't find these things anywhere else. What was the other question? So no smaller ones, no domes for these. Now we do have the smaller kits with the domes and with the bottom trays, and
which are heavy duty trays, by the way. I mean, they're not the flimsy ones you go to Walmart and buy. These are the type trays that you can reuse for years to come.
So if you want to, just grow 24 plants or 12 plants. Now, what a lot of our customers do, I would highly recommend doing this, is if you're not going to use all these pepper plants or all, you do a whole flat of tomatoes.
Because that is a lot of pepper plants, Trey, I'll be honest about it.
I'm just going to pick out the top 3 or 4 right here of each. We give the runts away to the folks down the road.
Neighbors. You always got them neighbors wanting something for nothing. And heaven knows we got our share of them around here.
Yeah. So
come transplanting time, they come up here and start
pull them out. They come with their head.
Swooping around. You got any extra pepper plants and whatnot and here forth. So that's what you do. You save your runts and give to them. They don't know no difference, and they'll be proud of you, and y'all be neighbors and friends for life.
Or a lot of people, what they'll do, especially with tomatoes, they'll grow out a whole tray, maybe several different varieties. They'll use what they're going to use. They'll pot up and sell the rest. You got your seed cost and probably your tray cost covered right there. You can sell them $4 a plant or whatever. So a lot of people will do that. Lots of good options there if you don't need to use all of them. What else? How long do they stay in there? I got another tray in the greenhouse with some cabbage and stuff that's growing pretty fast. Looks like it's going to come off in about 6 weeks. These peppers will need to be stepped up in probably 2 to 3 more weeks. They're starting to put on some true leaves. We'll need to start hitting them with some fertilizer soon. Peppers will stay in here longer than most stuff. Most stuff you're looking at 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, if you grow a pepper off in 6 weeks, you're doing something right. It's tough to do that. So you always want to plant your peppers a little bit earlier, or anticipate it taking a little bit longer for them than you do your regular.
Now, what I have seen somebody do, and I obviously this would void your warranty, but I have seen somebody take them a bandsaw
and cut them in half.
And saw them in half.
I believe old Gary did that.
It can be done. It can be done. Be careful.
Be careful,
because that thing right there could twist and you lose a finger or 3. Number 2 is from El Magoo, and here's what you've been wanting to get into. Said, when you don't see any eyes on the taters, how do you cut them up? She just got her order, and they look amazing. I've gotten a couple emails on this, folks. Folks can't see the eyes on the taters. But then if you ship them with too much sprout on, the folks gets upset because you got sprout and taters. The
folks has emailed me directly and said, I know one in particular said I had sent her taters without any eyes. And I went back and I said, no ma'am, I didn't do that. You're gonna have to learn a little something here. If you see these little indentions right here, now these potatoes right here are starting to sprout just a little bit, so you can see the eyes right there. But those little indentions there are eyes. And let's just, on this Yukon Gold right here, let's just count.
That's half of one, right?
That's half one. Count the eyes on that right there. And this is, I'm assuming this is a red Norland right here. And I'm going to count the eyes on it. 9 eyes.
There's at least 11 on this.
There's 9 eyes on this here half of red Norland here. Now you could cut that up and use all 9 if you was that good with a knife. It's possible to do that. However, I would quarter it up and I'd put about 2 eyes per planting on there. So what I'm trying to tell you, oh yeah, you can get it down to that.
You can plant that if you're getting real stingy with
it. But
them.
that's going a little overboard. We ain't sent you no eyeless potatoes, I can promise you that. Just give them a little time, they sprout it out. Or if you don't have time, you can go ahead and cut them up right here. let them heal over a couple of days and then plant them. They'll be fine. They'll still come out. They don't necessarily have to be sprouted before you plant them, although it does help a little bit if you can have them pre-sprouted. So there you have it, folks. Eyes on your potatoes.
Yeah, see that one right there. I was a little liberal with my cutting. I got that half a tater. I got 6 good seed pieces right there.
Yep.
And a little nugget to boot.
The next question is from T. Rollins. He says, what's your thoughts about using phenology as a planting time guide?
You know what phenology is?
I'm just so proud I got that halfway right, phenology.
You did.
I practiced on that one a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You were sitting in the mirror this morning while you used
phenology.
Phenology. So phenology is when you use certain environmental cues to tell you when to do something. So I think everybody does this to some extent. Some people probably are a little more religious about it than others. Now, if you've watched the show much, you know my thoughts on planting by the moon. However, phenology is much different than planting by the moon. Phenology, you're using environmental cues. You're not going off some crazy zodiac calendar.
Which could be the same thing, by the way.
No, not the same thing.
It could be the same thing. If you had an environmental sign that was tied to that moon phase, it would be the same thing. How about that?
Give me an example of environmental sign tied to the moon phase.
All right, say example, we got red maple trees that we always plant something by when the red maple tree busts out of bud and starts leafing out. Say that's my environment.
But the moon cycle's every 28 days. It ain't got the moon. The moon don't care about what that red maple's doing.
It might have been one of those cycles that said, "Boom, you got it busted out there." It could be tied to daylight.
Well, that would be what we call coincidence.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I can see me and you ain't gonna agree on this.
Well, maybe not. So phenology is when you're looking at cues like certain flowers blooming. A good one here.
Red maple tree blooming.
Right. Which ain't got nothing to do with the moon.
Okay.
A lot of people around here will use the pecan trees blooming as an indicator when to plant their corn.
See, I use that as an indicator when to catch certain fish. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you can look at that. I can look at certain things around my homestead. When my mulberry tree starts to do something, I can know it's time to do something. I think those cues are very, very, very helpful. Now, they can throw you off because a few years ago, all the fruit trees started blooming, and then we got a late frost in here, and it ruined a lot of fruit crops for a lot of commercial operations. So it can be fool's gold sometimes, but for the most part, I think those cues are helpful as long as they're, as long as you understand the relative importance. Don't go by it completely as a, golden rule, but just use them as an indicator to tell you, okay, that pecan tree's blooming. Okay, now we can start thinking about this.
What makes that pecan tree bloom?
What makes that pecan tree bloom? It could be a day length.
There you go. You're hitting on something now. Okay.
Ain't got nothing to do with the moon.
Well, it's got to do with day length, though.
Yeah, that ain't nothing to do with the moon.
I can talk about day length. Yeah,
I can too. Yeah.
Next question.
Anyway, so I think phenology is important, and if you've got any phenological examples out there, I'd love to hear about them. Number 4 from Eric Cartwright. Seems like we answer a lot of Eric's questions on the show. Wants to know the difference between the Cherokee tan and the Seminole pumpkin. Now, I don't have any Seminoles packed. We got some back there. They waiting to pack them. I got a pack of Cherokee tans there, and I'll let you talk about the differences you think between.
They are subtle differences. Now, one of the major differences is the heritage of each one of those. The Cherokee tan was saved from the Cherokee Indians, which we assume was up in the North Carolina Appalachian area up there. The Seminole pumpkin came from way down in Florida around the Everglades, and it came from the Seminole Indians. So could this have been the same plant at one time? It's possible.
There are some people, I think Deep South Homestead believes that it was.
And it very well could be. Now, we know that the two different ones have two different heritages because one of them comes from the Cherokee Indians and the Seminole comes from the Seminole Indians. They are very similar in size. They are very similar in the way they eat and all that. In fact,
that one's a little bit bigger.
Maybe a little bit bigger. But from what I have noticed from me growing, the Cherokee tan seems to have a little more vigor than the Seminole did.
Makes a much bigger vine.
Makes a lot bigger vine. Now, can that be just from years of breeding, of selective keeping the seeds? I don't know. I'm just telling you the minute differences I have seen in the two is a little bit bigger. Real similar. If you didn't know, you probably couldn't tell them apart. That's how similar they are.
Yeah. I think the Cherokee Tan is a little bit bigger. Some people will claim they can taste differences in the taste. They taste pretty similar to me. These do make bigger vines. I think the production is pretty close. Can't tell a huge difference in production. Not that it matters, but just for example, these Cherokee Tans were grown here. Our Seminoles are grown by an organic grower in Virginia.
Right.
So it's kind of like we flipped the script on them a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
Anyway.
I grow a big patch of these just about every year because we save the seeds off of them. They are fun to grow, I can tell you that. You better plant them, you better get out of the way because they will grow over something.
If you can't grow anything else, a fella can grow some of these.
All right, let's go to the next one. It's from Kansas Terry. She wants to know what is wrong with composting nightshades.
You reckon she's from Kansas or that's her first?
Kansas Terry.
I talked about this when we were talking about potatoes. There's nothing wrong with composting nightshades if you can get your compost pile really, really hot. The problem is a lot of home composters, it takes some finesse and work. A lot of people ask us, why don't we talk about composting? We just don't do it ourselves, and it takes a little bit of work to go in there, turn it, wet it, keep it tumbled so it goes in the heat and gets hot. And not everybody, a lot of people, they call what they do in composting, but they really just piling up scraps and letting it naturally decompose. And it's never getting really, really hot to where it turns into that black gold like we get from the cotton gin. You can compost anything if you want to, but you better be sure it's getting hot enough, and I don't know what that exact temperature is.
It's hot.
Hot enough to kill any fungal spores and kill any insect eggs. Around here, our tomatoes are very, very susceptible to diseases and insects. We get those leaf-footed bugs on them later in the season.
Blight. I have trouble with blight.
They lay eggs all over them. The last thing you'll do is put that in a compost pile
and spread it back out there.
Spread it on everything else. So if you can get your compost pile hot enough, some people are able to, then go for it, not a problem. If you don't compost or you can't get it that hot where it's just rolling with steam, put them in a burn pile and burn them.
Yep.
Last one is from Sharkman. He says, just curious, you said it's a good time to check your soil pH. What do you shoot for?
I shoot around a 6.5 for vegetables. Now, you know, a lot of different plants have a lot of different needs for pH. Blueberries, when we grow some blueberries down here, they like a 5.0 to a 5.5. So if you're growing blueberries, that's what you want. For a regular vegetable garden, 6.5 is pretty much ideal.
Yeah. I think there's a little leeway. I think anywhere between 6 and 6.5.
Yeah, I do too. I said ideals be 6.5.
Hard to hit the nail on the
A lot of
head.
people say 7 is ideal. I think 6.5 is probably perfect.
You know, one misconception with pH, a lot of people think that pH is easily changed, and pH is pretty steady. Once you get it right, it doesn't change a whole lot. It takes a good bit of modification and changing things to really alter the pH.
It does. However, the single most important thing you can do is have the correct pH in the garden.
I agree. And if you got your ag extension office nearby, they'll do a test for, I think, $10 or maybe even cheaper than that.
Right.
All right, man, I feel like
another good show.
I feel like we covered a lot of information. You know, this was episode 135 of the Row by Row Show. Hope everybody out there enjoyed it. Always put your questions and comments below. We'll be glad to try to answer them for you. If you enjoyed it, give us a big thumbs up, ring that bell, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you check out these 2 videos right here. I think you'll really enjoy those as well. We'll see you next time.
Take care.